Okay, this is part 4 of the slides about assessment methods for TMDL analysis. And talked about category 1 methods, category 2 methods in parts 1, 2, and 3. And then this part 4 will have to do with other assessment methods. So, and these other assessment methods may be auxiliary, let's say, to the category 1 and category 2 methods, but they can also be used by themselves without having to be associated with either category 1 or category 2 methods. So the other assessment methods are included in the, let's say, category of biological or geomorphic or geochemical approaches. So among the biological assessments, there are some aquatic system health measures that are used. For instance, the fish index of biological integrity, the index of biological integrity for fish, the index of biological integrity for macroinvertebrates. So typically, here in Minnesota, we'll see IBI scores for fish, and we'll also see IBI scores for macroinvertebrates that are being generated or being developed for different parts of the state. Then another category that was originally developed in Ohio and has been implemented here in Minnesota is habitat integrity index, and here called a qualitative habitat evaluation index, and that's what's been adapted here in Minnesota based on some work that was done in Ohio. And then now with the big concern over invasive species, I don't know whether there's been anything done that has been formalized on this, but certainly invasive species are being characterized in different parts of the state, and the presence of invasive species can lead to impairments. For instance, carp that are present in a lake or in a stream can lead to high suspended solids that then can lead to eutrophication conditions. The absence of those carp will be a great benefit. So a biological assessment that would quantify the carp presence in the water body would be an assessment quantification that would be helpful in characterizing an impairment of that nature. And then characterization of microbial pollution, here using DNA to do source identification of where microbes are coming from. One of the main applications here is to determine whether the microbes are from domestic animals and humans or whether they're from wildlife. And this type of technique has been developed in the past decade or so, and the accuracy of that is improving as time goes on. Another assessment method is geomorphic assessments, and here we might be quantifying the channel stability, and one method that we learn in class is the Banks method using B-high analysis and near bank shear stress analysis. There are other methods that can be used as well. B-stem is a model that's been used to quantify channel stability as well. And then to try to quantify the evolutionary stage of a channel, if it's in, let's say, poor condition as in transition, here it would be of interest to know what type of channel would be the, let's say, equilibrium characteristic, and the methodologies that have been prescribed by David Rosgen for channel evolutionary characterization would be useful in doing the geomorphic assessment to understand what's going on with the channel, whether it's in transition or not, and what the final stage should be. And for that, the WARS watershed assessment of river stability and sediment supply is an example of a technique that was developed by David Rosgen, put into a form of a book that can be used for doing that sort of geomorphic assessment. And finally, geochemical assessments. We'll be discussing this in class later in the semester, where we can use different types of chemistries in stream water or in lake water or groundwater, soil water, and so forth to identify the source of waters contributing to stream flow as an example. So, if we have an impairment in the stream, it would be of interest to know where the impairment is coming from. So to be able to quantify what the source of the water is important. So is the water coming from groundwater? Is the water coming from stormwater? Other forms or other sources of surface runoff? Is it coming from septic tank leakage, from power plants, from wastewater treatment plants? Stable isotopes can be useful in separating out the stream flow into the sources of the stream flow. Other types of chemicals, noble gases, for instance, helium, neon, or historically introduced gases such as sulfur hexafluoride, chlorofluorocarbons, and helium-3 are all gases that were introduced into the environment in the past, and these can be used to help to try to age water. And then finally, radioisotopes such as tritium can also be used for that purpose. And then use of reactive or absorptive chemicals as tracers to identify flow pathways is becoming more of a common technique for being able to identify where water is flowing in the environment. And just as an example, sulfur can be used to identify the presence of preferential flow processes in soil. And this would help us understand better about whether the water that is causing an impairment is actually coming from, for instance, drain tile, or whether it's coming from surface water just by the sulfur content of the stream water. So with that, I finished the discussion of assessment methods for TMDL analysis.